Good evening, everyone. I'm Kim Bishop, the Executive Director of the Neurofibromatosis Network, and we would like to welcome you to our webinar series. These webinars have proven to be an excellent way for the network to reach individuals across the country. Tonight, we're going to be learning about how to teach our children to keep themselves and the kids that they know safe from bullying. We're very fortunate to have Corrina Chang, who is bilingual speech and language pathologist, who runs her own speech and language intervention clinic. It's called Kids First Speech and Language Intervention. Corrina has firsthand experience to share with us since she is also living with neurofibromatosis type 1. I'd like to just talk a little bit about how we can communicate tonight. So if you look on your box that comes up with the webinar in the top right screen, there is a little triangular that says questions. So Corrina is open for questions during the presentation. So if you would type your question in that box, then I will go ahead and ask it to Corrina, and you'll be able to get an answer from her directly. So without any more delay, I would like to introduce you to Corrina Chang. Corrina, thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Kim. Hello. My name is Corrina, and tonight I'm going to be talking about bullying versus teasing. First, I want to kind of tell you the agenda and what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to go through bullying versus teasing and the difference between that. And I'm going to share a little bit about my experience being bullied as a young girl and a little bit even as an adult, too. I'm going to go through some vocabulary and terminology, as well as going through some sides of bullying, as well as sides of a bully. I'll also kind of talk about some treatment approaches and the importance of intervention in my approach, as well as I'm going to provide you with resources of where you can go to get more information. So with that said, let's begin. So my name is Corrina Chang, and I am a bilingual speech and language pathologist. I have my own clinic called Kids for Speech and Language Intervention, and I primarily see children with autism, cerebral palsy, and Down syndrome, and other social language disorders in my clinic. Just a little bit about myself. I am diagnosed with neurofibromatosis type 1, and I was diagnosed several weeks after I was born. I think it took me years before I even learned how to say neurofibromatosis, and I still get a little bit tongue-tied. So as a young girl, I didn't really know what NF was, but I do know that I was different. I think my first recollection of knowing that I was different was, I think I was in a bathing suit going swimming one time, and I saw my brother. He didn't have any marks at all on him. So I remember that night I went back home and I was looking at my body. I'm like, why do I have all these brown marks? I'm going to take a bar soap and I start scrubbing away of all my marks, but wasn't successful. And I think I asked my mom what it was, and that's when we first had discussions regarding what I did have. And I think shortly afterwards, my mom started taking me to multiple doctor's appointments, and I still didn't understand why I was the only one that goes through so many doctor's appointments and being pulled out of school. And then suddenly, she started, oh, you're going to have surgery. And then I think at that moment, I didn't know what that meant until the pain started. So at a young age, fourth grade to eighth grade, I had multiple surgeries on my face to remove cafe au lait spots, as well as tumors. I had just incisions, the surgically removed some of my tumors. So I have experience with that, and then because of that age, I was so vulnerable. Going to school, I was bandaged up. So I did get bullied by my peers. A lot of them did call me ugly. A lot of them called me birthmark girl, and it was constant. It was for years, just continuously. My nickname were birthmark girl or ugly, or bandage girl was another one that I got a lot. But because of that experience, it shaped who I am today. It made me very sympathetic and empathetic to a lot of my kids I see, because a lot of my kids I see, the patients I see, they have a diagnosis of either autism or Down syndrome or cerebral palsy. So they do get made fun of, they get teased, they get bullied. And I'm able to talk them through it. And I think it works out well for them in terms of they feel secure knowing that I have been through it and I know what it's like. And I take a different approach with all of my patients. So with that said, I do want to talk about how I go through when a patient does come to me, or when their parent does come to me and tell them, hey, I think my child is being bullied. I do have a curriculum that I go through. So the first thing that I talk to my patients about is bullying versus teasing. And I think this is really important to know the difference between bullying versus teasing. The biggest kicker for teasing is that teasing only happens one time between friends, versus bullying is intentionally being mean to someone multiple times over and over again. For bullying, it makes the victim feel afraid or small, and it makes the bully feel powerful. And for teasing, it's in some ways it kind of makes the child the one time, if it's one time and it's a friendly inside joke, it makes them feel stronger. It's supposed to be an inside joke, but we have to be very careful in teaching our children that there is a difference. If they don't like the teasing, they need to stand up for themselves too, and telling them, hey, I don't like that teasing, that was a little bit mean. And then the friend should be able to stop teasing. Otherwise, that becomes bullying if they continue to tease them over and over again, even though they had said, please stop. It is also important to know that there are different types of bullying. There's cyberbullying, physical bullying, social bullying, and verbal bullying. Cyberbullying happens online, and it's usually happens with adolescents, like middle-aged adolescents, when they have smartphones available for them or the computer. And they post hurtful messages online, whether on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or other social networks. Sometimes it can happen with like having fake accounts. They can use fake accounts to post embarrassing pictures of themselves. Physical bullying is when the bullier uses any types of physical touch. So they could be pulling on their backpack, or they can be pushing them in the hallway, or they can be tripping them on purpose, or spitting at them, or having other rude gestures. Social bullying it's kind of like when there's a group of people who spread rumors about the victim, or they purposely leave the victim out of conversations or games, and it usually makes the victim feel, again, very small. Verbal bullying is making fun of them, whether they can tease them about the food that they're eating. For example, your lunch stinks, or they have verbal bullying, like just comments about their appearance, name calling, or the likes. Oops. All right. Handling bullying. So with handling bullying, what I do like to talk to my patients about is, again, the terminology of ally, upstander, and bystander. Now, an ally supports the person being bullied. And an ally and upstander terminology is very much close together. So like I always tell my patients like that if they see bullying, if they observe bullying, that you always want to be the ally or the upstander. Now, the upstander will say things like, if they see a bullier bullying the victim, they usually say things like, hey, that's not cool, stop it, you're being mean. And it's really important like that I also teach my patients to, if they see it, that they do stand up in terms of using things, being able to stand up and say, hey, stop teasing him, or don't do that, because it makes the bullier feel less powerful, and make the bullier feel less powerful. And it supports the victim, which is really important, because the more people that see that they're supporting the victim, the more the others will also be supportive of the upstander. And the bystander does nothing. And the dangers of a bystander is that it makes the bullier feel powerful and the victim feel less powerful. All right. Okay, so I want to talk about signs of bullying. Okay, so this is really important. Not all kids will tell you if they are being bullied. And I can tell you right now in my practice, not all of my kids would tell me that they're getting bullied until I still start seeing signs change in their behavior, change their demeanor with me in sessions when we're working on something else other than social language. So it's really important that we do watch out for these signs of bullying. And as parents, I think you guys are the best judge of knowing that something is off. The reason why not all kids would talk about or tell the parents if they're getting bullied is because they feel embarrassed, they have fear. And a lot of the fear is that if they're older, they're fearful that the parent would go and talk to the bullier, or they will go and they feel that they have the fear that they will go and talk to the teacher, and then there's going to be other consequences that come their way. So there's a lot of fear and unknown factors for the child who is being bullied. So these are some of the signs to look for your child. Is like they're isolated. They feel isolated, not wanting to go to school, or they fake being sick, or they avoid social situations, or if they're really looking forward to a birthday party and all of a sudden they don't want to go, or there's a dance and they suddenly don't want to go. Any large gatherings that they used to want to go, they don't go anymore. Frequent headaches is another sign. I know I can tell you from my experience as a young girl, and at the time I didn't even know this myself, is that I had recurring migraines and headaches as well, and I didn't know why, but the bullying actually happened so much for me that I had a lot of headaches, and I had to stay home from school because there were times where I couldn't even sit up or stand up. And the doctors actually sent me to see a child psychologist to see what is going on as well, because MRI did show too much. And so they sent me to see a child psychologist, and the child psychologist actually kind of concluded the fact that because of being bullied not only at school but by cousins, that it stressed me out to a point where I started having a lot of headaches. So frequent headaches is also a sign of a child being bullied. Trouble sleeping is another sign. Having poor grades, especially when a child is doing really well and all of a sudden their grades drop, that's another sign. Poor self-esteem, so a lot of negative self-talk of oh, I'm not good enough, or they're using words that you normally don't hear. It's oh, this shirt is ugly, even though they love that shirt in the very beginning when they first bought it. So any negative self-talk of talking down on themselves, or words that they typically would not use, or scripted words that you kind of feel that that's not them. That's negative self-talk. All right. We also need to talk about signs of a bully, and that would be getting into physical fights. So when you never know if a child is a bully or the bullier. So it is important that we see the signs of a bully, and that's getting into physical fights, aggressive or competitive behaviors, blaming others and being defensive, especially when you ask them what happened and they immediately blame the other person that they started it, or it's not me, it's them. Another big kicker is also obsession or having anxiety over social status. And this means that they are obsessed with how many likes that they have on Facebook, or how many followers they have on Twitter. So the obsession of having their social status, oh, I'm the one, need to be the popular kid. That's also signs of a bully. Okay, let's see. All right, so let's get to the meat of everything. So with that said, with all the terminology, I do want to talk about the importance of intervention. The reason why it is really important to intervene and not let it run its course or hope that it's just a phase is that it's a lasting effect. Again, going back to me, it's a lifestyle. It changed completely, like my outlook in life and how I approach my patients, and actually changed completely, like why I even became a speech therapist for special needs children. I still remember all of the names that I was called, and even the feelings of just like feeling completely defeated, feeling just completely depressed over the fact that I didn't have that many friends in elementary school, as well as just like how I view myself in high school. And even it changed the way in my own personal relationships. Like I had because of all of the negative talks that was said to me as a young child, it brought into my relationships, even with with my boyfriend, my boyfriend. So it's really important that we do intervene when we do see it. It helps the child build. The sooner we intervene, the sooner like we are able to change the course of your child's thinking positively. Negative effects such as poor self-esteem, and self-destructive behaviors and other related mental health issues may occur, such as like suicide or attempted suicide. So it's really important that we do intervene as soon as we can when we see the signs of a bully or signs of a bully. Okay, so the very first thing that I want to address is that it's really important that we build rapport. So either as a therapist or as a parent, you don't want to right away ask them, are you being bullied? Because like that is a very strong question. That is a very bold question to be asking a child or a teenager. Automatically they will shut down. So it's important that we build that rapport, build that trust, and slowly ask them these type of questions. For me in my practice, like the very number one thing, even if like when I start any type of session, whether it's like for like social language or for any type of therapy, I always ask them, my very favorite question is the peak of the day. It's actually become an ongoing joke that some of my patients will open the door without even greeting me. They go, my pit of the day is that my mom would not give me the iPad. The peak of my day is that I got computer class. Not even greeting me, they already they tell me their pit and peak of the day. I love like having this open discussion of pit and peak of the day because it does allow a two-way conversation, because they always ask me, Corrina, what's your pit of the day? Or what's your peak of the day? And when parents actually, this kind of works out well, because when parents tell me ahead of time, like that something has happened, I try to make my pit of the day to be related to them. So, for example, if like the child if the parent has told me that something had happened in their class, like for example, they got into a fight, I try to relate it back to myself. I would say, oh, I got into a fight with my mom today. So then they kind of it helps them open up about their pit, or if they are able to relate as well and tell me what their pit of the day is. So I really like to have like an open discussion with my patients. With that said, after talking to them about vocabulary and terminology, when a child is open about talking about bullying and they are open for me to go through this curriculum, and after I talk to them about the vocabulary and terminology, I love reading books to them. For the reason why I like reading books is that the pressure is off of them. So they're reading characters of people, like the characters that go through bullying, and whether the character is a bystander or the bully or the ally, they are reading books that are not about them, but they can still kind of generalize and relate to the character, and then it comes an open discussion. I also like video modeling. So one of my favorite websites to go to is www.everydayspeech.com. Now this website is a great and amazing. It is catered to from pre-K to all the way to teenagers. This website it has, if we're talking about bullying, like this website has a whole curriculum too on bullying. So you can view the website and you can see like what I even talked about, the four types of bullying versus teasing, and it has accompanied with the activities with it, as well as like some ideas of games that you can play with the games and activities that you can play with like, your child. So I really like that I really like the website, and I will show you in a little bit like what it looks like. So other activities I like to do with them is, again, like games and role playing. And I will show you later on the slide what kind of games I like to play with them. Role playing is just like if they have come up with a scenario that has happened to them in school or in class or in their community, and they're trying to talk things out. I like to role play it. So like either I become the child, or I'm the bully or the bullier, and we kind of play out different scenarios of like how it can be different or what can change. When a child shuts down, I like to do a technique called cartooning. And cartooning is a very, very powerful tool or technique, just because some children don't want to talk about it. And it's very intimidating to have a parent or an adult like in their face asking them, well, what happened? What did Bobby Joe do to you on the slide? Or what did Bobby Joe do to you on the hallway? It's very intimidating to have to answer that. So what I like to do is I like to cartoon it or draw it out. So for example, with a child in the playground, I would start drawing a sun, and I would say, oh, were there a lot of clouds in it? So I would start drawing clouds. Or like, was there a tree? So I would start asking the questions, and I would start drawing it out. Were you on a slide? So I would draw a slide. And then I would start drawing the people. How many people were there? And if they said 2 people, then I would start drawing 2 people. If they say more, I would just draw more. And then I start drawing speech bubbles or drawing thought bubbles. And I will ask them, like, well, what did Bobby Joe say to you? Bobby Joe say that I stink and he does not want to play with me. So I will draw like a speech bubble that says like, you stink, I don't want to play with you. And then I would like talk, well, how did you feel? So I would draw a little thought bubble of like, well, how did that make you, like, what were you thinking when he said that? So that kind of opens up discussions. And the reason, again, I like cartooning and drawing it out is that your eyes are on the paper versus like you're having eye-to-eye contact. And sometimes the eye contact is very intimidating. So putting that on paper, your attention is on the paper and the details of the paper versus like the eye contact. So cartooning or drawing it out when a child shuts down is quite powerful. And I've seen that a lot of discussions open up because of that approach. All right, so I will show, okay, so I'm going to go back to that. Okay, so treatment approaches. Okay, so one of the things that I like to do is, hold on 1 second, I'm going to go, okay. So I'm going to skip ahead a little bit because I do want to talk about some of the approaches and some of the resources that I use. Now, as you see right over here, I say there's one that's to talk about for children and one talk about for teenagers. I love these books. These books are great because it goes through a curriculum and it lists activities. And I'm going to give you a sneak peek of what some of the content looks like. So you can see that some of the content talks about the qualities and strengths of themselves. So it is important that we have a positive self-talk. And this positive self-talk I use is again, going back to the books I use this one because it talks about like how to bring awareness of themselves and what qualities they like about themselves and setting goals for themselves. And it talks about like how to be assertive and how to deal with peer pressure or how to deal with jealousy. So there is a version for children, and this version that I show you is for teenagers. So I do like this book because I like going through all of these activities to help the child become more self-aware of themselves and and gives them tips on how to overcome some peer pressure. Now I'm going to skip over because I do want to show you a video. Let's see. So this video is about This video is about self-talk, and it's the everyday speech that I was telling you guys about earlier. I'm going to let it play for a little bit. If you are feeling down, positive self-talk can help you feel better. Instead of being negative, the voice in our head is positive. One way you can use positive self-talk is saying a phrase to yourself in your head. You use I statements such as, I can do this, or I will get it next time. These phrases can make us feel more confident about ourselves and boost our self-esteem. Let's see what using positive self-talk looks like.
I did such a bad job playing volleyball in gym today. I can't believe I have to do it again tomorrow. It's going to be awful. I don't like how this feels. I don't want to feel too down on myself. Not that big of a deal. I can try again tomorrow. I can.
Tim was using positive self-talk. He told himself he can be better tomorrow. He repeated it to himself. Now he feels better about how today went, and he's ready to give it his best tomorrow. Another way to use self-talk is to think about what you're good at or some of the good things in your life. Let's watch Tim try again.
I'm feeling more positive already. I'm good at some other things. I'm pretty good at running. Next week when we do track, I'll have a lot of fun.
Great job. Tim was feeling down, but he made himself feel better by using positive self-talk. He told himself, I can do it. These reminders helped him feel better about trying volleyball again tomorrow. Positive thoughts really help when you're feeling down. Next time you feel negative about yourself, try positive self-talk. All right. Okay, so like I said, I really like the teaching children positive self-talk. So whenever they have a negative thought of like, oh, I'm not good enough, I'm not pretty enough, really encourage your child or your patient to say, I am good, I am amazing, I'm positive, like I'm amazing, I'm beautiful inside and out, and kind of teaching them what are things that they like about themselves. So that goes back to my qualities and strengths, is to really go through like, what do they like about themselves? Like, I'm a good dancer, I'm very nice to my mom, or I make a great friend, I listen to other people. So it is important that we do talk about, like, help them, encourage them, and talk about what are things that they are good at, and that will help drive the positive self-talk too. The alternatives when your child is left out, again, this is like depending on the age of your child. So for my elementary school age patients, what I do is I do read a book to them about like different things that they can do, and it's called Join and Play. So I talk about like if they are feeling left out, if a child says, no, I don't want to play with you, I tell them there are other alternatives. So I give them alternatives that, well, you can go play with, like, by yourself. It's okay to play by yourself. And they say, well, I don't like playing by myself. So okay, well, why don't you create a game? You can be more specific and ask Bobby Joe, do you want to play tag with me? So kind of giving them solutions to what they can do when they are feeling left out, whether it is going playing by themselves or like creating a new game or joining in, asking another group of friends to play with. And for the teenagers, I think that for the teenage population, if they're feeling left out, like part of it is like telling them that it's okay to be alone. Like it's okay, like validating that it's not a great feeling to be left alone or to be left out, but there are also alternatives that they can do to like seek other friends, and that it's okay that we do interact with other friends, as well as expanding their interests as well. All right. So there are things I do want to talk about of what not to say and what to say when your child is being bullied. These are some of my top ones that I tell parents to not say. And the first one is ignore or brushing your child off. This is, for me, is a big one because it makes them feel more alone. So if you're ignoring your child when they say, "Hey, mom, I'm being bullied," or "Hey, mom, Bobby Joe is being mean to me," it's really important that we validate them and ask them more about it. This kind of goes back to, I'm going to kind of sidetrack a little bit, goes back to what I talked about, the pit and the peak of the day. It's important that we consistently ask them about their day, even though when a child is had enough of you or they don't want to talk about it. But it is important that we do try to spend some time either in the car or dinner table to ask those questions of how was your day? What did you who did you play with? At a very young age, because it will become more natural when they become older. So when you're asking, the child will feel a little bit more comfortable talking to you when they are feeling when they are being bullied. Another one is tough it up. This one is another one, my big what not to say, because it tells the child you just need to tolerate bullying, and obviously that's not okay. One other thing I don't think is on here is that I do know that some parents will say man up, especially to boys. And this is it can be dangerous because it tells it gives a message to the boys that it teaches boys to repress their feelings, and that it's not okay. It is not okay for them to feel it. It makes the boys feel that they need to repress all their feelings, and that it is not okay for them to feel hurt. So saying man up, it can be dangerous just because it makes them feel okay, I cannot talk to you about it, or this is not okay because if I'm feeling sad or hurt, then I am not being a man. Get over it is kind of similar to it. What they feel is not important, so it's really important that we don't use words like that. Or even asking, well, what did you do? By wording it that way, what did you do? It is another way of saying, well, what did you do to cause a bully to bully you? So it's important that we don't phrase it that way. Or the next one is, as a parent, I'll handle it. It's, again, whether your child is elementary school or a teenager, the child needs to be involved or heard. So it's really important as a parent, you don't say, oh, I handle it, don't worry about it, because the child needs to be involved in this. Standing up for yourself. Stand up for yourself. This is another one that is really, really difficult for kids to hear, because it's hard. Kids need guidance. They need a little bit of help because they don't know how to handle it themselves. They don't know how to stand up for themselves. And even telling the child to ignore and walk away, it's difficult, because I'm sure that they have, a lot of my patients have tried that, and for them, they will tell me it doesn't work. So it's really important that we teach them how to, what does that mean, stand up for yourself. And we have to make sure that we are guiding them properly, so they are feeling confident to address it. And another one that another reason why not to say that too is because typically some bullies, they have their own group of friends, so it's hard to stand up to 3 people or a group of people that are bullying them. So with that said, what do we say to them? You ask them what happened. How did it make you feel? So if your child is being bullied, ask them well, what happened? Again, goes back to the treatment approaches. You can draw it out for them. You can role play it if they don't feel comfortable. So asking them exactly like what happened and how did it make you feel. If they don't want to talk about it, like honestly, I would also wait towards the nighttime, because that's usually when child are, and sometimes like that's what happens in my sessions, like they don't want to talk about it. So I ask the parent, well, let's why don't you wait for right before bedtime, because usually kids are typically more relaxed at night and they are more inclined to tell the parent what has happened. And also be careful with the audience too. Usually kids will be more open if it's one-on-one versus if there's a sibling or a parent, like another parent that they don't, like a dad there or a mom there, or vice versa. Just be careful with the audience. Labeling this is bullying. So if it's truly bullying and labeling this is bullying, using those words gives your child power, and because it gives a name to it, it gives your child a power that like there's a name to it. Like we can do something about it, or I'm finally being heard. Another thing to say is not your fault. Like making sure that child does not feel any type of blame. Telling them that they are not alone. And if you have any experience, I like to relate back to them. So I would tell them my stories of how I was bullied as a little girl, and even a little bit even as an adult too. Like I would tell them my stories about, like even just recently, I would tell them the stories about how my parents and my family, my siblings were like just not long ago, like constantly over and over again for 7 days, like when we were on vacation, telling me that I need to lose weight. So they will pick at me, and then finally, like, I mean, it took me some time to stand up for myself and say, hey, you guys really need to stop. Like, you guys need to stop dogging on me on what I eat. Telling them that sounds awful, hurtful, and tell me more. Again, it validates the child that, like, yes, like what you're going through is awful. What you're going through, it hurts. I get it. You know, like telling them that, like, you understand that it helps them, that again, for the child not to feel alone. And finally, what can I do to help you? It is really important that we get them involved. Going back to like the what not to say of like like as a parent, I'll handle it. We really need to get the child involved, because like we never know, like there is a danger of like going to the parent, because like the last thing the parent, like going back to what I said before, sometimes children do not want to tell the parents that they're being bullied because of fear. So it is really important that we get the child involved. Like, what do you want me to do? How can I help you? Do you want me to talk to the teacher? Maybe the child does not want you to talk to the teacher. So we need to make sure we hear them out. If they say, I don't know, provide them with some suggestions, solutions, and have them tell you if they like that solution or not. So make sure like you ask them, what can I do to help you? What do you want me to do? And give the child power, like some little bit of power and control. And lastly, what I like to do is like I take a collaborative team approach. So I strongly believe a psychologist or a school counselor is really important. Going back to my experience, like I have seen counselors, I have seen a school counselor, a child psychologist when I was little, to help me just like, I remember just journaling through like how, like if my cousin made fun of me, or if my brother made fun of me, I remember just even like she was trying to see like if there was a correlation between like being made fun of and then if I had a headache that day. And so getting like a psychologist, a counselor involved, because they have their own approaches too to help with like coping mechanisms. And a speech language pathologist, I believe, is also should be involved, because a speech language pathologists have their own approach to how to cope in a social setting. So, and if the child has a hard time with communicating through it, the speech language pathologist does have their own approach to helping the child talk through it as well, and having like different ways of in that pragmatic social setting. Teachers and principals, should be involved. Just hearing their perspective if they have seen anything on the playground or in the hallways. And then, like I said before, getting parents together may not be the most beneficial. In fact, sometimes it might backfire on them because, like, by going to the bully's parent, the parent might, we don't know how the parent is going to react to their child. They might ground their child, and then the child will in turn get upset with the victim, the person that's being bullied. So it's really important that, like, we be very careful not to always jump to, like, well, I'm going to call, like, the bullier's, like, parent and tell them they need to get their child straight. It can really backfire, so we got to be very careful with getting parents together because that may not be beneficial at all. And in fact, it could be, we just don't know if how the parents is going to react to it. All right. So I wanted to show you some of the resources that I use. Like I said before, I really like using the www.everydayspeech.com. I know I just showed you just a snippet of it, but they do have other videos on bullying and positive self-talk and how to deal with peer pressure, how to deal with being rejected. So there are different types of videos on there and worksheets that accompany it. And again, like I said, there's different age levels. It's good for children who are pre-K all the way to adolescents. And these are the two books I really like. I do like Talk About for Children and Talk About for Teenagers because it does develop, like, self-awareness and positive self-talk. So I really like these two books, and I use them multiple, like, times throughout the year. All right, and these are some of the books that I really like that I like to read to my patients, especially my elementary school patients. And here's a website that has books, because, like I said, like, these books are really for elementary school patients, but if you click on this website, it actually has books for teenagers as well. So I do like to read books and encourage children and adolescents to read books because they can get their own perspective as well and be able to cope by reading the books and relating to the characters so they don't feel alone. And I do like to, like I said, I do like to play games with them and role playing. This is one of the games that I like to play with my elementary patients just because it elicits a lot of discussions too with it. So I like that. So with that said, are there any questions for me? And I'll probably step through it.
Corrina, that was amazing. Thank you so very much. The resources you're providing for us are fantastic, and I'm sure that the families will want to go back to this webinar and look at all those different books and the games that we can play. Great tools for our families to have.
So, like, if you guys have any questions or would like some of the links, like, please, like, feel free to email me and I can share those, like, to share those websites. And even if you want, if you write me an email and be more specific of what is happening with your child, I can better guide you how to approach it, because this webinar that I have conducted is I know it's very broad, and I'm sure it was probably very vague, but if you email me specifically and kind of tell me the background of what is happening to your child or how to approach, I can better guide you on how to approach it, because it is different for every single child. And I can't say that, like, one approach works for everybody. So that's why my webinar was a little bit, like, vague, because I like I said, I can't just say this will work for everybody. I need to know the child first. And, like, as a parent, you guys will know the best approach. So I can present you with different approaches and you can kind of use your judgment of what approach works best. I can also send you some things on via email with, like, what type of activities will work or what activities that might help or what books specifically. So just email me your specific questions and I can better guide you.
Corrina, I have a comment here from Anne.
Mhm.
She says, "Thank you so much for sharing your story. Excellent presentation." So I know that not only will Anne, but all the people that we share this with are really going to enjoy the information that you've given us, and your offer to take individual questions like that is really very kind. Thank you so much. So if people have any questions you want me to get them to Corrina, if you send it to admin@nfnetwork.org, we will go ahead and forward that on to Corrina. Oh, and Corrina's email is also right there on the screen if you want to go directly to her.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Okay,
I will be more than happy to answer any questions. Like, this is like one of my biggest passions is to work with families who have like difficulties with bullying. And a lot of my families, they always make fun of me, tease me, and call me the mama bear, because like one of the things is that I don't tolerate anyone being singled out for having a disorder or looking different, because I know what it's like, to be singled out. And even to this day, I still work on it. So I understand like how it can be to be teased and made fun of and bullied.
Well, thank you very much, Corrina, for an excellent presentation tonight. And for everybody who's on, you'll be getting copies of this webinar, which also has all those links and all those great resources that she's providing for us this evening. You'll have them like within a day or two in your inbox. Thank you, Corrina, for joining us and for the great presentation tonight. We'll talk to everybody later. Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Thank you.